Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com.
My good friend Mike Gross joins us. Great to see you on Saturday. Great to be with you right now.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Doing great.
You sound a little eclectic today.
I'm fine. We're just having fun today. All right, got a basketball game tonight.
That's what we're here. That's why we're here, man.
Yeah, you know what? It's sports. If you can't have fun with it, you're in the wrong business.
That's for sure.
Unless you're Frank Reich. All right, so...
Frank Reich. Like me, a graduate of Cedar Crest High School in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, so I was sad to hear that today. I was sad to hear that. He is a good guy, and but it really didn't work. And now you know how that business is.
It is the business. Penn State was in bounce-back mode for the second time this season. For the second time, they bounced back with a win by a margin. What did you think Saturday?
Yeah, you're right. It was the kind of thing that it's easy to say, well, it was Indiana, but you're right. It's the second time that they bounced back from taking a hit. And my big takeaway from this, Steve, was, one of James's themes for the last year and a half maybe has been we got to get deeper, we got to develop depth, and that really manifested on Saturday with their beat-up offensive line, and then they get another injury to the offensive line on the first snap of the game, and still manage to hold that thing together and run the ball pretty effectively. And win pretty easily. And obviously their defense was very dominant I think the kind of game that they really thrive in, because they really knew that Indiana was not a threat to run the ball. So it was kind of in a way similar to the Purdue game, almost like a 7-on-7 type approach. Yeah. And all those guys that Penn State has that can run around and fly around and make plays, that came to the fore. And, I thought it was a pretty good win. I really thought they played well.
It's one thing to see the tackles for losses, but back to your point about depth, Mike, the fact that it came from 12 different guys,
right?
That tells me something, too.
That might be college football history. That maybe, who could ever research that? But that may never have happened before. 13 TFLs in one half, and then all those different guys getting them. Amazing, yeah. And three interceptions by three different guys, too.
Everyone talks about Drew Aller, and I understand that because, look, everybody sees the talent. They're excited about it. I understand that. James has been, this is my opinion, you can tell me again, if I'm wrong or not, but there's been a consistency to me as to how he's handled this. Have you seen that he's been consistent as to how he has handled Sean and then when to bring Drew in? Yeah,
well, he's been consistent in how he's handled it. I think his sort of rhetoric in dealing with us has changed a little bit, which is not that important, but it's sort of interesting to me. And for the first time this year, he really said what I thought he should have said, even if it sounds dismissive. He said after the game on Saturday, he said, everybody's got an opinion, but hardly anybody has 1% of the information that I have to make the decision, and that's just the truth. Maybe he's afraid of sounding arrogant by saying that, but obviously that's true. We don't even the teeny amount that we get to see in the media of practice is no indication of what's going on in terms of in the meeting room and all of that stuff. And you don't, and also you can't even see watching the game the full impact that a guy like Clifford can have in terms of getting them into the right stuff and reading the right things and all of that. So, here we are. You can't say that it hasn't basically worked, right? I mean, the way this season has gone.
When you've watched Drew, all right. Again, you've had the ability to watch the games. When you've watched them, What have you liked?
Well, he's such a big guy, and he has such a quick release that you know, I mean, what the football geeks call arm talent. He's got oodles of that. That's anybody who can see anything can see that. And one of the things that is sort of a litmus test to me of a guy who can, just as a passer, is his ability to make those throws into tight windows in the red zone, because that's decision-making and arm strength and quick release and accuracy. That's all of those things in one little instant. And you saw it, I think, particularly with the first touchdown pass he threw on Saturday, but kind of both of those. That's one of the things that I always look for, and that is a big check mark positive in his favor.
Yeah, the one that he threw to Johnson, he just laid it up there, perfect. And then the one he threw to Wallace, I think my exact quote in the broadcast when I looked at Jack, I said, that was a dart. Yeah, well,
that's the one that I was talking about most. That's the one that those throws when the defense has a relatively small amount of vertical space to cover, so they can kind of fill his field of vision with bodies, and he's got to stick it in there. It has to be a dart, and so that's encouraging to me.
Which now brings us to Sean Clifford. Clifford was asked after the game about Drew, and he's singing his praises left and right about Drew. And he was asked about criticism. He says, "Look, I'm a happy guy."
I'll tell you, I love that quote.
I'm a happy dude.
I thought that was really, I thought that was a great little quote. I wish I would have used it. I couldn't quite find a way to work it into what I wrote, but that was exactly the right thing to say, and exactly the right way to be if you're a college football player, and I like that a lot. Yeah.
All right, so I mean, the two running backs, Singleton and Allen, they came in, a lot of hype, a lot of talk.
Yep.
You now watch them go through 9 games of seeing them out there in a little bit different styles. What have you thought of the two freshmen?
Well, they've been terrific. I mean, to have two of them, and now they're really, I mean, they've been relied upon for almost the whole way. And I think I might ask James about this at the press conference tomorrow. I think that I've seen Singleton in the last couple of weeks, and particularly Saturday, make some progress in some of the areas that Kaytron Allen, it seems to come naturally to Kaytron Allen. How to use your blockers, how to use the vision thing, how to stop and go and make people miss, how to get that extra yard or two after contact. I'm seeing Singleton make a little progress in that area, in addition to his unbelievable speed and strength. I mean, down the road, that could make him be an unbelievable player. But Kaytron Allen was, as good a player as there was on the field on Saturday. I thought he was really good. I said something about him being maybe the Big Ten freshman and offensive player of the week, but it turned out that a freshman for Iowa ran for 200 yards on Saturday. Yeah. So I guess he aced him out for those honors. But Allen was really good. And those guys, I mean, we expected them to play. I think we expected them to play early, but to be dependent on in this way. It's easy to say now that you saw it coming, but you can't assume that. They've both been really good.
After watching the running attack the last 2 years, Mike, in 20 and 21, where there's some talent, there's no getting around it. How different, though, is it watching the way these guys run the ball and how they use their offensive linemen, and what has it meant to the passing game?
Well, it opens up the playbook in every way. And just being able to, I've had this thought so many times just covering the games and watching the games where on 1st and 10 they run the ball and get 3 or 4 yards. That's so much that changes everything. That whole idea of being ahead of the sticks, and that opens up your playbook, and that opens up your options, and that makes you harder to defend. It's been huge. And then when you add the element of both Allen and Singleton able to make a big play, able to hit a home run in the running game. Particularly Singleton did that early, and a couple times, Allen has done it now a couple times too. it's hard to overstate. It's a big deal, and it's made them so much harder to defend. I think there's no question.
After watching Ohio State and Michigan, what's your thoughts on those two teams?
I would put Michigan a little bit ahead of Ohio State, just because Ohio State struggles to run the ball, and that has happened the last couple weeks. We've seen that in particular with Ohio State, but they've got a great quarterback and a great system and unbelievable receivers, so they're going to have a puncher's chance against anybody. It's funny to say Ohio State having a puncher's chance. I guess that's not really what I mean, but that threat of the passing game. I think they're two of the best 3 or 4 teams in the country. I think it's entirely possible that they could both make the playoff. And that would change some of the opportunities maybe for bowl games for Penn State if that happens. I'm impressed with the way Michigan has, in short order, rebuilt its defense. When you look at what they lost defensively, I mean, especially those DNs who were number two pick, and then like the number 20 pick in the first round or something like that. They've rebuilt their defense really fast. They might have the best offensive line in the country, and we know how important. We just talked about that. We know how important that is. And here's another thing. In 2020, granted that was the COVID year, and it almost doesn't count, but Michigan was not very good not that long ago, and it's been a remarkable turnaround with that, and then to again turn it over after losing a lot on the defensive side this year. I'm really impressed with what Michigan's doing right now.
Yeah, and there's one interesting side note to this year's Ohio State-Michigan game. It'll be the first time in 4 years Michigan's played at Ohio State. They haven't played there. People forget that game in 20 was
Why
canceled.
is that? Why is that?
In 20, the last game they played because of COVID was against Penn State, and they canceled the Ohio State game in Columbus.
Yeah, that's right. That's crazy. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Well,
you start thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah. You notice those things, Steve.
I'm I guess I'm a geek. Who knows?
That seems a little harsh. Yeah.
Mike, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Great talking to you. It's always great talking just off to the side, let alone in a format like this. Great to have you with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Anytime.